Hey everybody, we're testing the stream. Well, we're running the stream, but I'm going to test it right now to make sure it works before I officially post the tweet. I hope you all are having a good Sunday. Can everybody hear me? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. I'm going to post the tweet and then we're going to get started. Tweet is live. Oh, I should put it in the Discord too. Not that many people usually come from the Discord, but just in case. How's everybody doing? Oh, stop it, Sildari. How you doing, pal? Thanks for swinging through. Let me see. Sorry, dude. Just type in the Discord. 1 second. Cool. My weekend's good. A little busy. We had Emerald City Comic Con is next week, which is going to be fun, but it's a lot of prep that I haven't done yet because I do cosplay. I cosplay as Spider Jerusalem. From the comic book Transmetropolitan. So it involves shaving my head and involves a lot of like body paint and stuff, which I have not done yet. Well, I haven't obviously done for this year yet, and it's going to be a lot of work, and I haven't done it yet. So we're doing that on Tuesday, Wednesday, one of those days. But otherwise, yeah, it's good. It's been a good weekend. Played some D&D last night, some Tomb of Annihilation. Super late, crazy late, and I'm very tired. But we're going to make this happen. Welcome, everyone. If you have not watched one of our streams before, this is a terrible place to come in. No, that's not true at all. You're welcome everywhere. We are designing some monsters today. We are basing these monsters off of the PCs in All Hail Yog, which is our D&D actual play podcast that you can listen to right now on Podbean and iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are enjoyed. So one by one, we've been going through our different heroes and statting them up as villains that you can use in your ongoing D&D campaigns. First, we did Agnamaw, the Angel of Apocalypse. And then we did, now we're working on Desdemonia, Desdemonia Malice, the Succubus infiltrator rogue, played by Heather Lore. So last week, we did the CR5 and the CR10 versions. Now, this week, we're going to focus on the CR15 version, sort of the crime lord version of the character, and then we will try to see how long that takes and how far we get. And if we have some extra time at the end of the stream, we might even brainstorm for the next villain, Dr. Hubert Hilkington, the mad scientist. But until then, we're going to work on this version of Desdemonia. So let me see. What did we work on? So last week, if I move that, does that do anything? No. Okay. So we're talking about Desdemonia's sort of final form. And one of the interesting things about Desdemonia is that if you look back at the other two versions of her, she is pretty fundamentally different in between her different iterations. So the first version of Desdemonia, the CR5, she is just an assassin. So the arc we kind of talked about was that she starts off as an assassin at CR5, and she's sort of working for other people. She's a contract killer. And then by CR10, she becomes a brothel madam, and she has a little bit more power, a little bit more influence, and is starting to sort of control affairs within this city. And then by CR15, we kind of had the idea that she has evolved all the way up to a full-blown crime lord. That since she, as a succubus, she has, charming abilities, and she also has shape-changing abilities, it would be very easy for her to socially and politically manipulate the events and the players in this big city. We kind of like the idea that she had basically positioned herself as potentially several different crime lords, all kind of playing them off of each other and causing mischief and chaos. Because again, the nice thing about her being a succubus is that that's her ultimate goal. She's not really interested in money or power. She's interested just in causing chaos and destruction and confusion. I like the idea of her blackmailing people just for the sake of blackmailing them, not because she wants any money or you know, informing other people's rivals about secrets, or giving them dirt on each other just to see what kind of fireworks she can cause. So now that she's level 15, we have kind of talked about the notion that she is retired full-time from assassination, and that now she is just sort of a social manipulator, that she's at the center of this big crime web, and she's pulling all the different strings and making people interact with one another in devious and malicious ways. So there's some basic number crunching we should do. I'm not sure how much of these stats I'm going to change. We upped her charisma to 20. I might push that beyond if we're CR, you know, 15. But I'm going to leave these as X's right now because I just don't know what her ability score changes should be. How does that look? Can you guys see everything? Let me try moving it over just a little bit. There, that's better. We'll leave these as X's, and I'll change the modifiers and things in future. We should look up the proficiency bonus for a CR15. So if this is boring, folks, I apologize. We're just going to go through and do some of the heavy lifting on these abilities. So this is all Agdamos stuff. Now, if you're a patron, you actually have access to this document, the design doc, as we call it, and it has all of the stats for the different monsters that we worked on. Otherwise, you can just see it here. So this level, they are worth 13,000 XP. Oh, I was here to look for the proficiency bonus, and I did not, because I'm very, very smart. Let's see. Yep. Oh, actually, we haven't even plugged it in over here. Oh my gosh, I have to do this Angel of Apocalypse stuff. I've never did it. Yikes. So let's say proficiency bonus is still plus X, so that will change her attacks and things like that, and her spell saves. Oops. I think her saves are good in terms of dexterity, wisdom, and charisma. Makes sense to me. I don't feel like she should get strength or con or int necessarily. So she has damage resistances, cold, necrotic, fire, and poison. At 15th, I wonder if she should get some immunities. She is a devil, so it makes sense to me that she might have immunity to fire and maybe immunity to poison. So I guess that would be underneath resistances. So it would be damage, immunities. I don't think she'd have immunity to cold, but let's give her fire and poison. I like the idea that she's immune to poison, especially because she's like an assassin and a poisoner. You know, that doesn't really have any... Yeah, exactly. Desdemonia is doing it for the lulz. Sildari, all for the lulz. But yeah, at this level, I don't feel like she would have immunities to cold or necrotic, but we will still keep them there as resistances. I think she's still vulnerable to radiant. I still like that. Charmed, frightened, and poisoned makes sense to me to remain immune to. I think her skills are the same, but obviously those bonuses will change, so I can plug that in. Right now she has expertise on 2 of her skills, on her deception and her persuasion. Languages all make sense to me. Abyssal, Common, Infernal, Telepathy. I do think it's fun to keep her telepathy as only with creatures that she currently has charmed. I don't really want to expand that too much and give her just general telepathy, even though I know the Succubus has general telepathy within 60 feet, but like, I mean, we could up that. I don't think that's unreasonable. It's not as flavorful, you know what I mean? That's one of the things I like about it. So let's say telepathy 160 feet. I mean, or 60 feet. She's CR 15. Let's give her 120, because that's twice what the Succubus one is. She's CR 15, right? Oh, crap. Crap. I'm editing Madame Desdemonia. Crap. Happens to me a lot. This is an indication that I'm not very organized here. So let's change all of this. Sorry, folks. Okay, go back down here. So Desdemonia Crime Lord is where we want to be. I think these are all the same. I think a CR15 monster has like +5 or +6 damage immunities. Gonna be fire and poison. Yeah, that's all fine. That's all fine. These will presumably go up as her ability scores and her proficiency bonus go up. So we're going to give her telepathy 120 feet. And this becomes 13,000. Oh, I see what I did. Okay, I'll have to fix that up there. Sorry, folks. Disorganized today. Tired. Very, very tired. Okay, so let's see. These are the abilities she had before. She has Assassinate. She has advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat. Any hit she scores against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. I think we give her fly speed. I think we get rid of Glide. I think now she can just fly. Before she had a Glide ability where she couldn't like stay in the air sustainedly. I think at level 15 she can just fly. Network of Spies. So this one we definitely want to improve. Thanks to her eyes and ears around the city, Desdemonia can cast the following divination spells as rituals. Spell save DC 17. That'll go up. Ritual 1 hour casting time requiring no material components. So we did make a list for some of these. Let's see. Pull that up. I want to see something really quick, folks. Just one moment. Oh, that's the wrong one. We're a little light in the chat today, I noticed, which is sad. But hopefully we can get some more peeps in here. I'm going to see if I can lure a few more voices in. Not that I don't love having you here, Sultari, but got to get that discussion going. Okay. How many people are in the chat right now? But yeah, so we need some more spells for her Network of Spies, for sure. There's 2 in the chat right now. Okay. So we had a list up here. Let's look. Didn't we make a list? Scrying was the big one, yeah. So locate object / creature, arcane eye, and scrying. Let's see. So we have once per day on Clairvoyance, 8 hour duration, locate object up to 10 miles away, locate creature up to 10 miles away. I think all that's good. Let's maybe change this to 3 times per day and then go once per day on scrying. I'm trying to think if there are any other big divination spells. Like Arcane Eye exists, but I feel like it's not as good as Clairvoyance in this context. Divination spells are tricky. Let's get a new window. Divination spells 5e. There's some that I'm not thinking of. I mean, there certainly are, but I feel like we did this last week. We looked through the options. Guidance, True Strike, Beast Bond, blah, blah, blah. That's all basic stuff. Oh, Detect Thoughts. Yeah, I think we discussed the idea that, yes, she has telepathy, but she also has Detect Thoughts. At will, maybe? That might be a little bit too much. Let's see what it does. Doesn't appear to be concentration. You can read the thoughts of certain creatures. When you cast a spell, and as your action on each turn until the spell ends, you can focus your mind on any one creature that you can see within 30 feet of you. If the creature you choose has an intelligence of 3 or lower, doesn't speak any language, it's unaffected. You initially learn the surface thoughts of the creature, what is most on its mind in that moment. As an action, you can either shift your attention to other creatures' thoughts or attempt to probe deeper. Target must make a wisdom saving throw. If it fails, you gain insight into its reasoning, its emotional state. Yeah, this seems right. Maybe it's too much to make this a cantrip, but I kind of like that she can just read your mind. So let's go at will. Detect thoughts. Oop, that's not how you spell detect. Yeah, okay, cool. Y'all can see that. Okay, 3 times per day, then Clairvoyance, 8 hour duration, locate object, 10 miles away. This feels more like a spell-like ability, though, than it does like a Network of Spies. You know? What if we did this? What if we went, in addition, she can cast Detect Thoughts at will on... Oop, that's also not how you spell thoughts. Thoughts on any creature she has charmed. Might be a little too... That might be kind of limited, but I think that's interesting. Oh, Incredulous should come up here. Before Network of Spies, but after Assassinate. Yeah, there was a long... I settled on Incredulous. There was kind of a long debate about what that ability should be named. We jokingly called it Anti-Gullible on the last stream. But that's... I think Incredulous makes sense. The notion being that, you know, you can't play a player. If you try to deceive Desdemonia, she's going to figure it out, right? I like Scry... Anyway, we were looking at other divination spells. Yeah, if you think something's too powerful, do what everyone else does. Make it once per every short/long rest. That's true. Put some kind of a timer on it. Is always smart. Yeah, exactly. Divination spells. Oh, I was looking right here. Okay, so what do we got? Detect Thoughts I like. Hunter's Mark is not right. Augury I think is too bland. Locate Object, Mind Spike, See Invisibility, Clairvoyance we have. Arcane Eye is a potential. What does Divination do? Oh, it's like a single question, sure, concerning a specific goal, event, or activity to occur within 7 days. That's more like telling the future, less about like surveillance. Legend Lore, Scrying, Telepathic Bond. Yeah, right. Find the Path, True Seeing. I think that's fine. I think giving your Scrying is pretty good. The thing about Scrying is that it's... Yeah, I guess it is technically different from Locate Creature. Locate Creature lets you determine their location. Clairvoyance lets you create an invisible sensor. Yeah, so I think Scrying is kind of the ultimate one. I think we'll leave it at Scrying for now. And again, the idea is that she's very localized, that it's like her agents within the city. It's not gosh, I can't talk. It's not on this plane of existence, but it's within her sort of sphere of her influence, which we'll get into in a little bit. She still has legendary resistance, and she's still a legendary creature. She has Shape Changer. I think she has Sneak Attack. We'll up this by another 2d6. So she's at 66 now. Telepathic Bond. Yep, ignores all range restriction on her telepathy. She and the target don't even need to be on the same plane of existence. Here's my thing, is that she feels very similar. You know, like we can up the Charm, and we can up the Dagger, and we can up the Draining Kiss, and give her some regional effects, which we talked about. But she feels almost identical to the CR10 one. I'm trying to think of some crazy stuff we can do to push these boundaries. Yeah, let's see. Well, let's just punch these in. This gets higher. Wisdom saving throw will be magically seduced. The seduction lasts until it is dispelled by greater restoration. If the target successfully saves against the effect, or if the effect on it ends, the target is immune to Desdemonia's charm for the next 24 hours. We could lower this. We could save for the next hour. She can't do it again immediately, but she could do it again in 2 hours or after a short rest or whatever. A creature seduced this way is not aware that they were seduced. So again, you get kind of a Purple Man thing where she can steer people's actions without them being aware of it. And there's no limit on the number of people that she can have charmed. So she could have hundreds of people charmed in the city, right, as her agents. Attack would presumably go up. It would deal damage. Draining Kiss. Desdemonia kisses a creature charmed by her or a willing creature. The target must make a DC X Con saving throw. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to cough real quick. There. A DC X Constitution saving throw against this magic, taking a pile of damage. on a failed save. Half as much on a successful one. So it was what? It was 5d8 before with the assassin? Because, yeah, the idea is that she has to charm you. So if we go 5d8 and then we go to 8d8, then it seems like you have to go to 11d8, which, like, good lord. That's brutal. Hit points are reduced by an amount equal to the damage taken. This reduction lasts until the target finishes a long rest. This target lasts until dispelled. These are all pretty small, though, small changes. Dispelled until... or until dispelled with... I gotcha. Greater restoration. We'll say lesser restoration is fine. If the target dies, this effect reduces its hit point maximum to 0. Also on a failure, the target suffers 1 level of exhaustion. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's what we added last time. Suffers 1 level of exhaustion. And... what? Again, I just feel like we're not pushing the envelope here with this upgrade. We discussed, let's go look at our brainstorming. Draining Kisses, increased damage, charm person, resistance to necrotic and fire, vulnerable to radiant. Non-combat abilities. I like the idea of her having some weird non-combat stuff, but I don't know what that would be. Oh, excuse me. It shows this scintillating. So she's gathers secrets, you know. She's like a spy and a saboteur. So non-combat style abilities, you know, I'm thinking of like vampires traditionally have some non-combat. Energy drain, teleport. Energy drain is interesting. Oh, we talked about like wisdom and charisma drain as a possible power, but I don't know how to do that without it. Because like if you look at the creatures that have that like intellect devourers and vargoyles, I think somebody found last time. The mechanics on them are very strange and case specific. So I'm trying to figure out a way we could couple that into the kiss, right? But the kiss is already so beefy in terms of its stats that I'd be worried about adding anything more to it. Because again, it's all very additive. Yeah, the Vargoyle. I don't know if that's how you say that. That's how I pronounce it. Vargoyle. Vampire has stuff like regen, which is possible, but it doesn't quite feel right. Misty Escape, Shape Changer, Regeneration, Spider Climb, Vampire Weaknesses. Charm, Children of the Night, you know, can call swarms of bats or rats, things like that. So, like... oh, what if one of her spell-like abilities is Pass Without Trace? Yeah, right. Vargoyles are cool. Hey, Shadowner. Thanks for swinging through, man. A Vargoyle. Okay, that's what I've always said, but I don't know. Hey, Brooke. Cool. I'm glad that some people showed up. I was a little bit like, it's me and Ryan hanging out, which is great, but you know, it's nice to get that discussion going. I like Pass Without Trace is a good one. What do y'all think? I need some more meat on this succubus, this CR15. Oh no, that's cool, Brooke. You do you. How's Gizmo doing? Let's just do some brainstorming. So we can talk about regional effects. That's one thing we talked about last time. Is that the area around Desdemonia would have some regional effects that as she like takes... yeah, I'm sure that Gizmo is an extremely good boy. That as she takes over a city, there would be effects. The question is, what would those effects be? Let's look at some regional effects on other monsters and compare. Oh, I forgot to bring my monster manual today. That sucks. That's okay. regional effects. Ivy. I'm at this point now where whenever I Google anything on, it always like wants to put 5e after it. So again, regional effects is just like a phrase that you could just Google, but it's like, you mean regional effects 5e, right? I mean, come on, who are we kidding here? The first one that came up when I Googled this was the Ancient Green. So let's just look at their regional effects. Again, these aren't going to be quite right, because I feel like Desdemonia's regional effects are like very social. Thickets form labyrinthine passages within 1 mile of the dragon's lair. The thickets act as 10-foot high, 10-foot thick walls that block line of sight, so like thorns, okay? Within 1 mile of the lair, the dragon leaves no physical evidence of its passage unless it wishes to. That's kind of interesting. Tracking it there is impossible except by magical means. In addition, it ignores movement, impediments, and damage from plants in this area that are neither magical nor creatures. And then rodents and birds within 1 mile of the dragon's lair serve as the dragon's eyes and ears. Yeah, there we go. Deer and other large game were strangely absent, hinting at the presence of an unnaturally hungry predator. Okay, so rodents and birds within 1 mile of the dragon's lair serve as the dragon's eyes and ears. I like that. But let's not call them rodents and birds, right? Because she wouldn't be like charming pigeons and things. But she would be like children, maybe? That's maybe too creepy, but like people, whatever kind of people. I like urchins because, again, it has kind of an Artful Dodger feel. Within 10 miles of Desdemonia. Serve as her... Yeah, citizens can act as the eyes and ears. Exactly. It's her eyes and ears. They... Something about like them steering them towards Desdemonia's sort of like places of business, right? That like... If they ask, you know, streetwise checks is what it would be in the, yeah, I think you're right, citizens, a dominated city. Citizens within 10 miles of this. Citizens within the city. No, that's repetitive. Citizens within 1 mile of Desdemonia's lair. Serve as her eyes and ears. When asked for services... Asked about services, they always point. They always steer the characters into... her clutches is too dramatic. But you know what I'm saying? That like, if they say, okay, we're looking for a tavern, they will always point you towards one that Desdemonia controls. Or they're looking for a blacksmith, they will always point you towards one that Desdemonia has influence over. You know, it's like impossible to move around in the city without in some way ending up kind of in her clutches. So we'll just put that for now. That's definitely not how I would eventually word it, but I like that notion that their NPCs are always steering characters towards her. Other regional effects. So what are the other like aspects of Desdemonia's nature? She's demonic, she shape changes, she charms people. She can fly, but that's not particularly interesting. Yeah, her influence isn't terrible. You always steer the characters into her influence. They always seek to steer. Like, they're always trying. Like, oh, you gotta go to the stuck pig, or whatever it's called. Seek to steer the characters into her influence. That's good enough for now. I can maybe reword it later as necessary. Thank you, Brooke. So... stuff like what? I think there's something about like crime in the city is rampant, you know. She is chaotic evil. Yep. So crime in the city seems rampant, and that like the police or the guard doesn't really enforce the laws. That seems too generic, but I feel like that's fine. That like crime in the city is rampant. I might even get rid of the 1 mile thing, because the notion being that, like, citizens, the city's citizens, the city's denizens. Yeah, chaotic evil is another good hit, for sure. The city's denizens serve as her eyes and ears. Crime in the city is rampant, and the laws rarely enforced. The characters could easily run afoul foul of thieves or cut purses with no hope of the guard coming to their aid. Just the general notion that it's almost like a post-apocalyptic, like a Mos Eisley kind of vibe, that like whatever city she comes into and wields her influence over, you just kind of get this rampant criminality that no one can really do anything about. Yeah, exactly. She always has someone under her influence in the guard, precisely, that she's bought the cops, you know. Is there something about... She's chaotic evil. Is there something about her, like... her demonic nature, her infernal nature that we can play with? The idea that she, in some way, has an effect on the churches or has an effect on religious practices in the city in some way, you know, if she's a devil. That, like, clerics and priests have a difficult time contacting their gods. But I guess we kind of did some of that with Agnema. Although I don't think they have regional effects. They have layer actions. You know, something like that. I'll just write down some other ideas. You don't have to just have these three. Clerics / paladins. Have trouble accessing gods. It's like easier to summon demons. Or something. Kind of a Sodom and Gomorrah sort of vibe. Yeah, corrupting religion to her style of worship. I like the Sodom and Gomorrah vibe, that, like, the people are licentious and wicked, you know? That it corrupts the alignment of the city, almost. Because crime becomes rampant, and people sort of engage in, like, decadent behavior. The thing about the Green Dragons... yeah, the Dominator's pleasure, exactly. The thing about the Green Dragon's lair actions is that they have, like, a very overt mechanical effect. You know, there's, like, brambles and things that prevent you from finding the lair. It's too much, I think, to say that, like, oh, the city becomes a maze and it's impossible to navigate. It's kind of interesting, but it doesn't quite feel right for her. I think it's more about the hearts and minds of the people of the city, you know? I like the devil worshipping thing. I like the notion of playing with, like, that there's a general sense of wickedness in the city. That it's not just that there's crime, but it's that people are cruel and callous. And she, like, heightens everyone's sense of selfishness and everyone's sense of pranks and mischief and, like, you know what I mean? That it has this, like, weird psychological effect on the city the longer that she's there. People don't trust each other, and people are constantly trying to one-up each other and humiliate each other and things like that, right? Like, something like that. I'll put that down as an idea. Humiliate, or the city's general wickedness. Increases. Ooh, Lamia. I should look up. The other thing I was going to say, yeah, let's look up some other similar monsters and see if we can get some ideas around them. Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't know how to spell that. Gomorrah. Whatever. It's got some weird biblical spelling. Yes, let's look up the Lamia. And yeah, you're right, Brooke. I think she seems like the type who likes to watch things unfold. Like, she definitely... I think she pushes things over the edge, right? Like, she'll spy on someone, get some information, and then leave that information on the doorstep of their rival. Or she will, you know, murder one person because she knows it will start a war, right? Like, not because she wants that war, not because it will benefit her, just because she likes the idea of it, right? That she's sparked all kinds of guild wars and all kinds of you know, sabotage and things like that. But I do think that she does kind of lay back, but at the same time, she's the center of it, right? It's just the nexus from which all this chaos erupts. So let's look at the Lamia. I forgot how they do them in 5th edition. Charm person, mirror image, scrying, suggestion, intoxicating touch. Oh, there's not a lot here. Is there like a flavor thing with the Lamia that I'm missing? Or is that like a biblical reference and I'm a fool? Because Lamia to me is just a monster in D&D. She could be. I don't think she's like a terrorist. Yeah, flavor. Okay, cool. Thanks, Shadow. I was like, oh, the Lamia. I want to look up some more demons and devils, though. I think she's similar to a Joker in that they are both chaotic evil and that she's all about the chaos, but I don't think that she's as random and chaotic, quote-unquote, as he is. I don't think that she's as much about anarchy, so much as she is about wickedness and perversion and decadence, right? That she's almost more of a Harley Quinn. Her tactics are more to twist and corrupt than they are to sort of explode, right? Fire isn't really one of her weapons. And I think the Joker also has like a very twisted sense of humor in terms of like irony is one of the Joker's weapons, and like I don't necessarily know if she has that as much. I think she's more about depravity, you know? Okay, let's look at some other devils in 5e for some other ideas. Some high-level stuff. Because she's Succubus. Irenes is just like a soldier. Oh. Okay. Does it have Gaius? I didn't see that. The Lamia. I mean, I think something about, like, no one trusting each other and everyone... It's almost like The Purge or something like that, right? Like, it has that kind of vibe where there are no laws and everyone... It's like an excuse for everyone... Oh, they do have Gaius. Where it's like an excuse for everyone to turn on each other, you know? It has a very Purge kind of vibe. Let's look at other devils. All these devils are, like, very much lacking in an interesting flavor. You know, like the barbed devil and the bearded devil, and they're just like guys with attacks. And I mean, I can give her stuff like Devil's Sight, you know, Hurl Flame, but like that's very out of character for her. Because I guess technically as a succubus, she's a fiend, but she's not really a devil. Pit Fiend's got fear auras, which isn't quite right. Bite, mace, tail. Magic resistance, you know. The Pit Fiend can cast Fireball at will. Good lord. Yeah, let's look at demons. Because I'm thinking like a Merilith, but I think a Merilith is just has like 8 attacks, right? There's not a lot of like flavor there. Let's look at the wiki. The Baelor, the Dretch, the Glabrazu, the Hezro, the Merilith. Yeah. There's really not like an excellent example here. So something about... Yeah, let's get rid of this one. I mean, she could have like a... Is it devils or demons that have summoned devils? Like, she could be able to summon more devils to do her... But she could summon succubi, right, to do her bidding. Kind of like Children of the Night or whatever. That's not a terrible idea. Because at this point, she's CR15. It's like a succubus... And that's traditionally a devil ability, right? Summon devils. Wickedness and cruelty reign in the city. People are mistrustful and cruel. Oh, we have cruel and vile and depraved. No, let's see. It unlocks... Desdemonia's presence unlocks... Cambions are good too, yeah. Desdemonia's presence unlocks the inner... Ooh, table of devil summoning percentages. That's cool. I like kind of limiting her table, maybe even including a table of like, she summons these kinds. Because she could summon dretches and things like that. But that feels... out of character for her, you know. I like the idea that it's CR15. She's powerful enough that she can just, like, here's a succubus. That might be overpowered. I don't really know how the devil summoning works, but I will definitely look at that table real quick. In the citizenry. Citizenry. People are mistrustful. People grow mistrustful, and decadent, and depraved under her influence. It's something like this. That doesn't really feel like a good regional effect, but you know what I mean. Okay, so let's see. Let's not do that. Let's get a new one. Devil summoning percentages. I can pull it up. Yeah, I can't find it. Well, a Yoklol has a similar thing. Mist form variant. Summon demon once per day. The demon chooses what to summon and attempts a magical summoning. Yoklol has 50% of summoning one. Yoklol. Okay. A summoned demon appears in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of its summoner. And acts as an ally of its summoner and can't summon other demons. Okay. It remains for 1 minute or until its summoner dies or until its summoner dismisses it as an action. And that's a CR 10. So I don't think it's ridiculous that Desdemonia could summon like 1d3 succubi or something like that, right? That's interesting to me. I think it's something like that. Yeah. Let's look. How would we word that? Does anybody else use the website The Monsters Know What They're Doing? I've been trying to use it a lot more. I think it's actually pretty solid in terms of tactics. It's a good way of like, yeah, standard succubi or CR4. I just don't know how that works. I don't think I have the is that in the monster manual, the table of devil summoning percentages? I don't have it with me. I'm going to base it off the Yoklol for right now. Yoklol? I don't know how to say it. Summon Succubus, we're going to call it. It's an action. Summon Succubus. I think that's fine, you know. This should probably be fine. Once per day. Because, yeah, if a Yoklol can summon another Yoklol, and it's great, Sildar. You should check it out. It's basically this blogger who goes through different monsters in the monster manual and just writes down tactically, like, so if you're going to run a fight with a roper, this is how a roper would work, and these are some smart tactical tricks you could use to make the encounters a little bit more satisfying. Because I have this Aarakocra in my Tomb of Annihilation game, I kind of started using it to think, like, what's a way I can maximize the monster's effectiveness? And it's been pretty helpful so far. I haven't found a monster I wanted to run that there wasn't an article for. So, yeah, it's cool. I'm not sure who writes it, but it's a great website and a good resource. Desdemonia chooses what to summon. Okay, Desdemonia summons... Desdemonia attempts, yeah. Because that's the other thing, right? Or an infernal summoning, we'll say. Yeah, a little bit, Sildari. We can talk about it. We had a couple of encounters in the past couple of weeks that have been better. I'm a few weeks ahead of the recap show of Previously On. So this most recent week, we had an encounter with a yellow musk creeper, which is a monster unique to Tomb of Annihilation that basically has these spores that it sends out. We also had a fight against an Allosaurus, which was pretty, like, bog standard, but was interesting because I discovered the big thing with making those encounters work with this Aarakocra was not to kill him, not to, like, really endanger him, but just to damage him, just to scare him, because the player is actually kind of skittish, and so having this Allosaurus, basically the encounter was that Allosaurus enters the encounter space. We don't have to go into all the details of it, but the monk deals a bunch of damage to the Allosaurus. The way the Allosaurus works is that it has pounce, so if it moves 30 feet and attacks, it can hit you with a claw. If it hits with a claw, you're knocked prone, such and such and such. Oh, I don't know why the thing is glitching. Anyway, so I hit him with the claw. Oops, excuse me. I hit him with the claw and then bit him, and he took like 25 damage, and was actually pretty like, oh god, it's after me. And that was enough. Like, they handily defeated the monster after that. But it was this moment of, like, you're actually not invincible. Every once in a while, if you get threatened, that's enough. It's enough to make the combat feel satisfying. I don't actually have to put him on death's door all the time. And the way I'm doing it, too, I'm trying not to overburden my adventures and my encounters with these kinds of things. I'm very sporadically saying, like, here's a roper, and here's a giant spider web, and here's a this. So that way it doesn't feel like the Aarakocra is just constantly being antagonized. They're also in the jungle right now, so it's a lot of wandering around and facing random encounters. So it's easy to sprinkle in, like, an assassin find just got added to the list for this week. So we'll see. Yeah, some of those other special Tomb of Horror monsters or Tomb of Annihilation? Because the party was really creeped out by the Yellow Musk Creeper, which, again, I want to post a thing about this at some point. The conceit of there are, like, different axes on which an encounter can be successful, and challenge is just one of them. So a successful encounter can obviously be funny, or it can be creepy is another one, or it can be narrow. So, like, they had an encounter in Tomb of Annihilation recently. We're way off topic, but I'll get there. Where they encountered sort of a troop of apes. And they're just bog standard. These are apes, like, out of the Monster Manual, like CR 1/4. Maybe they're CR 1. I don't remember. But the way I played it made it seem like these are these big, tough combatants, and the party was all about, like, how do we not engage these creatures because we don't want to scare them. And there was a moment when they thought, oh, maybe this will turn into a combat, and it didn't. They managed to dissuade the monsters away. And that felt satisfying, like, oh, oof. They would have absolutely annihilated the apes in combat. It really wouldn't have been a fun fight. But because they didn't know that, having sort of narrowness is a virtue as well in an encounter. So that's a big thing to remember, too, that you don't necessarily have to challenge them and knock people unconscious every single fight in order to have the fight feel worthwhile, if that makes sense, or fun. There are a lot of different axes on which an encounter can be successful. And so the Yellow Musk Creeper was creepy, surprisingly enough. And that got the party really on edge, and they were very nervous. There was a lot of sort of John Carpenter body horror I was able to do with, like, the vines creeping into their mouths and things like that. That was successful, even though it wasn't actually threatening. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I don't know why the thing's glitching a little bit on me. It's very strange. Let me know if it gets to be a real problem, because we can fix it. I'm going to do this, see if that helps. Okay, an Infernal Summoning. She has a 50% chance of summoning 1d3 Succubi / is Incubi Succubi? Because I like the idea that she could do Incubi as well, but... a summoned fiend appears in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of its summoner, acts as an ally of the summoner, and can't, I mean, it can't summon other demons anyway, but can't summon other fiends. It remains for 1 minute until Desdemonia dies, or until she dismisses it as an action. Yeah, right. They're able to choose gender as well. Okay, cool. Thanks, Sildari. We had this problem last week, too, where, like, the Google Doc was, like, flickering, you know, and I wasn't really sure what was going on with it. Okay, so that, I think, helps. What I don't like about Summon Succubus is that it's just, like, a 50% chance, and then if that doesn't happen, it's an action. They just, like, wasted an action. They, like, try to summon a Succubus, and it doesn't work, right? Like, that seems very strange to me. But that could be a very deadly turn of events in a combat, right? So I guess I understand it, like, balance-wise, why it's there. So the Succubus has etherealness. It magically enters the ethereal plane from the material plane or vice versa, which Desdemonia could have, but again, just kind of feels unsatisfying. You know, it just feels like a very generic ability that doesn't really tap into any of her established powers, like, you know, charming or chaos or devilry or shape-changing. I feel like there's like one more piece we're missing here to Desdemonia Crime Lord, and it feels like an out-of-combat ability, you know, something that, like, Oh yeah, when outnumbered, summoning a distraction can be a good way to retreat and rally. I like that too. And it's just like that she has like a posse, like the Spice Girls, right? Like she can like snap her fingers and like boom, she's got 3 succubi with her. That feels very appropriate to me. So yeah, I feel like we're missing like one cool like non-combat. I'm a crime lord. Look at the stuff I can do. Type ability. Something like blackmail, or I mean, like, what's the difference between her blackmailing someone and her charming someone? You know, like if she can charm someone, she can basically issue commands. So blackmail doesn't really work as a type of ability. Is there something about like her learning information, kind of a legend lore type thing, that she can learn almost any piece of information if given enough time from her, you know, her servants? Is there... Oh, wait. Wait. Yeah, exactly. Yo, what's up, Alan? Thanks for coming in, man. We're talking about Desdemonia. Yeah, right? See, I think the idea of the Succubus Spice Girls is really cool. Alan will hopefully have a pun for this, but... so we talked about this before. Thanks for waiting, Brooke. One of the regional effects, rather than wickedness and cruelty, because it's kind of covered under crime and is in the city's rampant. We can like reflavor it, but the notion that she can put a hit out on one of the players, that being a regional effect, that like if they cause trouble or if they do whatever, that it's not difficult for her to send an assassin after them, right? Of like a preemptive encounter. So how do we word that? Anyone in the city who causes a problem for Desdemonia is targeted by an assassin. Every like 1d4 days, that they just like repeated attempts to have them assassinated, right? After something like that. That might not be the exact correct wording, but you know what I'm saying, that like she just sends hits out on you after a while, that like you can't stick around because these fucking assassins are just all up in your face. An assassin's just a monster, right? That is a real thing. I'm not crazy. Yeah, increase assassin random encounters. That's the class, or the like the build. Need the monster. It might be an ambush. It might be a poisoning. But it never stops. CR 8? That's pretty good. That's very good. Oh, evasion is good. I should maybe give her evasion. There's another trait. I'm trying to think if there's like a good... I mean, does she lose assassinate or sneak attack or something at this level? Because I just feel like she's completely retired, you know, from being an assassin. I wonder if there's a way to condense her a little bit by taking away assassinate and sneak attack. The CR15 version of Desdemonia is, you know... Well, but she's a fiend, so it's not like she's aged. She's not like, oh, I'm getting too old for this shit, you know. She would still have it. Yeah. I want, like, one more cool out-of-combat ability. You know? That's, like, something to do with her influence over the city, or something to do with her network. Yeah, I agree. Like, if she was a human, I think I could get behind that idea that, like, she aged and she's older now, right? That she's this cool retired assassin. But she still has... Yeah, of course you're looking up gross business language, Alan. Yeah, she's working from a distance, but, like, there's nothing... She hasn't aged or anything like that. She's not, like, out of her prime. She's still exactly as skilled. Discover the blackmail by reading the objects her syndicates gather for her, making it easier to control people or eliminate them. Huh. Interesting. I'm not sure how you would mechanize that. But that's good. That's in the right direction for sure. Her syndicates gather for her, making it easier for her to control people or eliminate them. Yeah, she can gather blackmail. She can gather information. She can do what? Yeah, crowdsourcing. I just don't know what that mechanically. How do you express that? That she can just like get like what do you mean objects like? Because like information, I feel like that's easy to just wrap up into one of her spell-like abilities, right? We have network of spies. Thanks to her eyes and ears around the city. Because I wonder if it's something crazy and like quote unquote overpowered, like what is it? The Planetar just like knows if you're lying, like just knows it, just cannot be told a falsehood. So if it's something like she knows everything that happens in her city or something like that. But if we have that, then that gets rid of the need for the network of spies. So there's something about like she can get any item or she can get any, I don't know. So you have summoned Succubus, so you couldn't do like, you know, her gang of her guild of thieves or something like that as her like minions, which you could do, but there are plenty of stats for things like that. There's no reason to stat them up as separate monsters. She's a fiend, but I feel like we have that kind of covered, right? She's got summoning Succubus, and most of the rest of the sort of demonic abilities are pretty bleh, right? Like magic resistance and things like that. Like we could give her magic resistance. I don't think that's actually ridiculous at this point. She's got legendary resistance. It feels weird to stack them. Does like a vampire or something? Like Thieves Guild under her influence makes sense, but again, I feel like that's not a trait in her monster stat block. You know, that's something we can like cover in the write-up. Like I feel like it's easy to say, okay, you know, at any given time she has this many people working for her. You know, a guild of thieves and assassins and spies. But is there something to the idea of like, this is kind of the summon Succubus idea. Broad-gauged offer clause is the spookiest euphemism for the con. What? Where would that... You're saying I should write broad-gauged offer clause as the name? Regional effects generally don't have names anyway, but the idea of broad-gauged offer clause as a name is crazy to me. So, a couple of things. Let's look at her legendary actions. She has her cunning action. She can move her speed and make a stealth check to hide, right? She has mandate, which I kind of like. Issues a command to all creatures charmed by her within sight. Is there some way that she can, like, exert influence over a huge group of people all at once? You know? Kind of like compulsion, the spell, but for way more people. Like the whole city. Because many things do like in their dreams or something, but that's a little outside her purview. The other option is to do like a weird body double thing where, you know, when you reduce her to 0 hit points, there's a 10% chance that this is a duplicate of her or something, and it's not actually her. But that's a whole other like power suite that I'm not super fascinated or super interested by. Did I misspell incubi? Yeah, there's 2. Using it. Gosh, this is tricky. It's something, I think it's something world related rather than combat related. Sorry to be so picky, dudes. I just like, we got to figure this. It's very precise and I want to make sure we get it. What are some other big, like, does Mind Flayer have anything crazy? I'm trying to think of like other big monsters with crazy non-combat abilities. Mind Flayer is pretty standard. It's got magic resistance and some innate spellcasting type stuff. Vampire we looked at. What are some other big fancy monsters? We looked at all the fiends. We looked at angels last time. Rakshasas I think are pretty standard as well. Just trying to get some juice flowing. Oh, Succubi do corrupt through dreams? That's interesting. I hadn't heard that about Succubi. I always thought they were more like tempters rather than sort of dream weavers, because like they don't get the dream spell, which is it's just a spell for sure. We could give that to her, but that feels like it's opening up a different compartmentalizing. Yeah, she uses propaganda is interesting too, but I feel like propaganda is like trying to convince people, or I feel like she's much more capable of like just telling them, just commanding them. I feel like it's more like Gaius, right? Which she should have, I feel like, but does not. Alan, where are you at? The Cosa Nostra, yeah, this thing of ours that I know called themselves the Commission from Prohibition till the 1990s. Just, Alan has this love of research to the point where I sometimes think he just researches things because he wants to, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but like he's so far in the weeds. Oh, I had something. We were talking about propaganda. We were talking about Gaius. Oh yes, that's what it was. No, because what's interesting about Gaius is, or Gaius, I don't know how to pronounce it, is that the person is charmed to do something, but they're not forced to do it. If they don't do it, they take damage. You know? So it's not like a traditional charm where they just have to do it and they have no choice. With Gaius, they have a choice, but the consequences of not doing it are bad. So it's like a very blackmail type situation. It's not like a traditional charm. So it could be dream. Like, I'm not opposed to it. There are characters you haven't met yet in Yogg who are a little bit more dream focused. I mean, no, Ernst even has that power. So yeah, psychic punishment is interesting. I wish there was like a good way to codify that here, because it makes me feel like it should be in charm. That her charm works more like a Gaius. But right now, there's no wiggle room inside that charm for... Oh, coerce is great, yeah. There's no room inside that charm for disobedience, right? Like, they're seduced, and we've established that seduction... You cannot harm her or target her with harmful spells or abilities, right? Like, there's no room for them to disobey. So why would Gaius come into it? Yeah. Small things we can do to make her more powerful. Charm is, yeah, I mean, charm is an action, so no, that doesn't really do it. Because she can do that as many times as she wants. Right. And there's no limit to the number of people she can charm. Is there a way to do... What about, like, as an... Alan, you have a good idea. What about, like, as an action? So right now, she has charm, right, as one of her actions. And that's, like, this whole complicated thing. They make a save. What if she has command, essentially, as an action with no saving throw? So the nice thing about command is it's one word, traditionally. Oh, sorry, Alan. We're trying to give her one more power that, like, makes her feel more distinct than the Desdemonia, Madame Desdemonia. Though, like, basically she's just a carbon copy of that version with, like, a few little tweaks. She's got Summon Succubus, and we, like, upped the damage on Draining Kiss. We gave her some telepathy and changed her resistances. But we do want them to play, like, different monsters, so the conceit is, like, what can we do to make Desdemonia at this level feel more powerful, but also feel different and interesting in some creative ways. So my question was, what I was saying was, what if she has command basically just as an action with no save? That she can just point at you and tell you, do this, and you have to do it. Since command only lasts for one round, and it's usually only one word, and it's something relatively simple, you know, I could see it having a lot of utility, like drop that, or leave, or, you know, cover your ears, or do something like that, right? Like, cover your ears is multiple words. But you know what I'm saying? That, like, she has just such a huge force of personality that she can just point at you and tell you to do something, and you have to do it. Yeah, exactly, like executive authority. There's just like no, and you don't think to question it, you just listen, and then you realize like, God, why did I do that? There's no save. It's not like the normal command smell. She just does it at will, and it automatically succeeds. But it's only, and it doesn't let you harm yourself. It doesn't do anything that lasts more than 1 round. But there's almost like a cool role-playing element there that she points at you and you just do it, and you don't even have to pick up your dice. Like, you have to do it. I think something like that's kind of cool. Let's call it coerce for now. But it could honestly just be called command. At higher levels, command targets multiple creatures. So do you think that she gets to... So my question there is like the balance on that. Does she get to command multiple creatures, or does she only get to command 1 because there's no save? I feel like it should only be 1. Oh, Alan says, I'd imagined her at CR10 as a nakedly otherworldly creature, but at CR15 she had this air of legitimacy that's built on top of a long history of criminality. Yeah, I guess. To me, she's like all fake identities, you know? That like few people even know that she as a creature exists. Maybe she has like a small coterie of succubi or incubi that are her like direct servants, but everyone who works for her thinks they're working for one of her various identities. So there might be something with that, with like false identity being one of her traits. Because I think that the charlatan has that, right? Like where you can adopt multiple different personalities, and, you know, I don't know if that would have any mechanical benefit, but I feel like it's all secrets and shadows. Like, no one actually knows who she is except her innermost circle. So let's look at command. I think if we're going to have it be no save, that it should just be 1 target. I mean, I like the idea of her being powerful enough to do it to multiple targets, but... yeah. For me, I like the fact that there's no save. That it's just auto. You have to do it. You have no choice. Especially because of how limited command is. It's going to feel powerful. It's going to feel like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That she can just tell you to do it and you don't get to roll any dice. Casts command on 1 target in range. The target makes no saving throw and must obey the command on their turn. She just tells you and you do it. Let me look at like the charlatan false identity thing, because I think there's something kind of interesting there, because that feels very out of combat, but I feel like that's just something that's sort of given with her, you know. You've created a second identity that includes documentation, established acquaintances, and disguises that allow you to assume that persona. Additionally, you can forge documents, including official papers and personal letters, as long as you have seen an example of that kind of document or the handwriting you are trying to copy. What if there's like... Yeah, exactly. And I don't think she ever will be a god, but I like that. I think she does get to do it every turn, but it's her action. So she can do it, but it's not a bonus action. So that would be in place of doing Charm, or in place of doing Draining Kiss, or in place of summoning a succubus. So, like, it's the economy, right? That if she's a CR15 monster, that like sacrificing her whole turn basically to do that, I think balances it out. Because you could do like once per short rest or something. That feels very limiting. I think the whole point is that she's CR15 and you do what she tells you. But again, you can't harm yourself, and it's only 1 round, and it's not even really a charm. You just are forced to obey the command. What if there is a trait? She has Shape Changer, but what if she has a trait that's like sort of like a scroll type power? I have not seen Captain Marvel yet. Do not spoil me. I know I brought up scrolls, but do not spoil me. I'm furious. I would be if I get spoiled right now, I'm gonna rage quit this stream. Not that any one of you would spoil me. But what if it's like an impersonation power where, yes, she can change her shape, but she, like, if she can change her shape into someone else, she learns everything that they know, or something like that, right? So she becomes this, like, perfect infiltrator, like, way better than a doppelganger. She gets advantage on all deception checks to pose as that person. But it takes like an hour that she has to, study them or do whatever, and then she can impersonate them like perfectly. Almost like the false appearance or whatever that some like plants and things have, or when they're like not moving, they're indistinguishable from the actual person. Which adds this like whole extra layer of spookiness to her. Yeah, cool. I hope it's good. I've heard good things about it, Shadowrunner. We're trying to watch the whole MCU like in order. We're not super far yet. We just finished Winter Soldier, so we have about 10 more movies to go, which means we won't get to see Captain Marvel for a couple more weeks. So I'm worried I'm going to get spoiled. But it also doesn't feel like one of the most spoilery movies in the universe, so it'll probably be okay. We're trying to do it all before Avengers 4, but yeah. Because it's this weird thing where like we were really into those movies, my fiance and I, when they first started coming out, and we like got back into Marvel. But now I'm kind of on the outs with it. I'm like, I'm a little done. It's great, and I like them, but it's just sort of like a send-off to like, okay, I'm probably not going to keep following it after this point. So I wanted to go back and like rewatch it all. Because I don't know, I was into it. I like the big mythology of it. Winter Soldier is good. Alan, you spoiled it for me already, man. Come on. Gosh. I like Winter Soldier. I don't know if it's my favorite one, but I do think it's probably top 5 in terms of like storytelling. It's good. I like that they don't make a lot of bones that the bad guy is the bad guy, because it's like so obvious. Yeah, Marvel does have a lot on its plate after A4, but I don't know how much of it I'll be there for. I feel like it's the kind of thing where I'm going to let it happen, and then I'll come in like 10 years and be like, oh, guys, Spider-Man Far From Home is really good. And everyone will be like, who cares about that anymore? So I like impersonate. I want to try to put that on here somewhere. Impersonate. Because this notion of like... I'm trying to figure out how to word this, because I like basing it on false appearance. So false appearance is an ability that a lot of like plant-style monsters have. Or, yeah, that's true. All the new X-Men movies. Oh, boy. They got me. They got that. The corporation got my dollar. I don't like it. I'm anti-corporation. Okay, so false appearance in 5e. I think the Roper has it. And it says, while the Roper remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from a normal cave formation, such as a stalagmite. So that's obviously a big step away from what we're doing, but I like the idea of like the social equivalent of that, is that while Desdemonia is impersonating someone, it is impossible to tell that it is not that person. You know? That like normally it would be an insight check, and ostensibly you could make an insight check, but there's like nothing about their behavior that suggests that they aren't really who they are, that maybe she has the ability to, gain their thoughts or whatever, or like learn their memories when she impersonates them or something like that. I think the assassin also has a power that if they can like study a person. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Thank you. I knew there was a thing. Thanks, dude. Thanks, Shadow. It's called Imposter. That's exactly what I want. Imposter. You gain the ability to unerringly mimic another person's speech, writing, and behavior. You must yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Maybe I already knew this existed, I just didn't remember. You must spend at least 3 hours studying these 3 components of the person's behavior, listening to speech, examining handwriting, and observing mannerisms. This is indiscernible to the casual observer. Bingo. Exactly what I wanted. Imposter. Desdemonia can unerringly mimic another person's speech, writing, and behavior. So like combine that with shape-shifting? Come on. She must spend at least 3 hours. We're going to make it 1 hour because she's awesome. At least 1 hour. And also that's like not a meaningful distinction for a bad guy. That like for a player, sure, that's something you need to think about. But a villain has all the time in the world, right? You don't usually track a villain's time in an adventure. You can, but It's pretty rare. So might as well make it 1. I almost want to like get rid of this. Get rid of this second sentence. Maybe that's too powerful, but like it seems like CR15 that she could just do it. She could just innately pick it up. Like she's an infiltrator. I'm gonna get rid of it. I think that's better. Her ruse is indiscernible. That she can just like look at you and instantly get it all. To the casual observer. If a wary creature suspects something is amiss, she has advantage on any charisma deception check she makes to avoid detection. Because I actually think there could be something kind of cool there. Yeah, improved imposter. Bingo. I think there could be something kind of cool. Let's just call it imposter, because we didn't have imposter before. But yeah, I think there's something kind of cool there if you think about the depth between what the players will know, what their characters will know. So I'm trying to imagine how that would play out at the table. Like, let's say someone suspects, oh, this NPC is actually Desdemonia in disguise, right? I want to roll an insight check. They're going to see the DM roll, and they might even see the DM roll with advantage, right? Roll twice. But the character's not going to know. So you're going to get this great sense of, like, paranoia that the players know that that might be Desdemonia. That's at least, like, an imposter. But the characters don't. I feel like that's a really interesting... Oh, look at Cesar coming in. Hey, bud. That's a great thought. But what if someone used detect thoughts on her? Oh, yeah, I like that too, Shadow. When a villain has a routine, when in a city they visit, of where in a city they visit or travel, certain places via routes, timing is hilarious when the players stumble across them by chance. So yeah, that still exists for sure. But I don't know, I think if you use detect thoughts on them, that works, you know? Although yeah. Because you don't want to, like, cut off every single potential avenue to them figuring it out. Is it impostor? Is that how you spell that word? Huh. Oh, I see another person's speech. Because you could give her something that would, like, protect her from that. You know, that she can't have her mind or her alignment read. But I feel like she's got to have some kind of a backdoor. What do you think? Do you think that there should be a mechanic to prevent you from... Or, like, an ability that prevents her from being, like, scryed on? Basically a ring of mind shielding, yeah. But... I think Ernst has one of those, doesn't he? Yeah, like, the Doppelganger doesn't have that. It does have read thoughts. Which we could give her. She's got detect thoughts. Yeah, she has telepathy herself. Because she's a succubus. But I feel like... And she can detect thoughts of any creature she has charmed. Which I like that limitation. That she has to charm you first, and then she can detect your thoughts. We can maybe do read thoughts. I don't know if that's different. No, it's the same. I feel like that's pretty good. I hear what you're saying, Cesar. And also, thanks for joining the chat, man. I don't even think we've ever met. That's awesome. But yeah, like the question being... Do you want to leave any backdoors? I think that's a good backdoor. I think if a player thinks, I'm going to use detect thoughts, they might get something. It could be the kind of thing where Desdemonia is so good that her surface thoughts are still in character. Yeah, I think that's fine. What do y'all think? Still involves a wisdom save, that's true. I think you get the surface thoughts without the wisdom save. I think if you probe deeper is when you get that wisdom save. So we could see. I like that though. I think you have to give them some option to figure her out. Otherwise she's just too Yeah, she's just too powerful. It's just, you'll never detect it. And we're already giving her the ability to instantly mimic another person's speech. Because, like, you could absolutely see the encounter where, like, she poses as one of the party members, right, for a while. Or something like that, especially if that person is absent. Yeah, I like that. Okay. I think that's Desdemonia, everybody. Crazy. Yeah, that's right. You could do that, too. That you get nothing, and that's weird. You know? The absence of it. She's not like immune, but if you get it, if you read her mind, you get quote unquote nothing. You get psychic static, as you describe. I mean, she realizes what you've done. That's kind of a fun way to do it too. Okay, I think that's good. I don't think it's worth like codifying that as an ability because it's such a corner case thing. But you could, if you wanted to, give her a ring of mind shielding for sure. Cool. Great. Do we move on to Dr. Hubert? That's wild. What does everybody think? Do we want to move on to another villain? So a little bit of bad news. I will not be here next week on account of Emerald City Comic Con. And then we'll be here the next week, which is March 24th. And then I may have to move my streaming day for a couple of weeks after that because the place where I stream, the library here, is going to be closed for 2 weekends in a row. So we may have to do like a Thursday night stream or something like that. Well, Thursday night probably not because that's a Critical Role and nobody wants to do that. Maybe a Monday night stream? That could be interesting. We'll have to see. But next week is Emerald City, and I'll be at Emerald City. So if anybody here in the chat is going to be at Emerald City, please let me know. I would love to see some XP fans. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, let's maybe do some brainstorming for Dr. Hubert. New villain. New villain. Dr. Hubert it is. Oh, is that St. Patrick's Day? That's weird. The 17th? Oh, yeah, you're right. It is St. Patrick's Day. Shadowrunner is always good with, like, this is going to sound weird, but it's always good with, like, dates. Like, last week he reminded us, like, hey, Dungeon Crawl, you know, it's, Daylight Savings, don't forget. Like, I'm always forgetting that kind of thing, but he's, like, right on it. Let's talk about Dr. Hubert. How did I format this before for brainstorming? So, this is the good doctor and his wife. So Dr. Hubert is a really interesting bad guy. Hilkington. A fun story about Dr. Hubert. He was originally Dr. Hugh Hilkington, and I kind of had to like, and it was Elizabeth with an E, and I sort of asked Cody, like, hey, Cody, how do you feel if we fantasy this up a little bit? And I put that Bert in there. Because Hugh Hilkington sounded a little bit too, like, heroic to me. Hubert added a little bit of weird clankiness to the name that made it feel a little bit more off-kilter. Yeah, flavor text and then just brainstorming. Okay, so Dr. Hubert, if you have not listened to the podcast, what on earth are you doing here? But, in brief, Dr. Hubert is a mad scientist. He's a pretty bog-standard character. It's not the kind of thing you normally see in D&D very much, but he's a classic villain archetype. Dr. Hubert was sort of a brilliant, aspiring scientist and an artificer who was pushing the limits in his experiments and was using his wife as his test subject because, of course, or I forget if she was exactly his test subject or not, but I think basically his experiment, some experiment he was doing, obviously that involved, you know, lightning or whatever, destroyed his laboratory, and in the process nearly killed him and killed his wife. Sort of going mad from grief, he then sort of Dr. Freeze style, like, or Mr. Freeze, takes her body and then tries to preserve her as best he can. He's not a cleric, he's not a magician, he can't really keep her alive in any conventional means, quote unquote, and so he basically fashions this golem out of her body. Oh, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Brooke. Don't you spoil me, Brooke. I want to see it, and I haven't seen it yet. Don't spoil me. You won't. You're lovely. You would never do that. But don't. Don't do it. And so then he basically creates this gruesome parody of life for his wife. She's obviously not really there. She's just sort of this shambling zombie-like version of his wife. But then as time goes on and she continues to deteriorate, he has to keep replacing different parts of her body with other pieces to keep her whole and keep her constituent. So eventually she just becomes this hulking monster that has no real bearing on who she actually was at any time. Her name is Elizabeth, and her only consistent trait is her red hair. She's got this flowing red hair that grows off of her scalp. So in every iteration, I like that spelling of Elizabeth, Shadowrunner. Yeah, that's what we debated. CR5, she could still be alive. That's interesting. The conceit, though, is that he doesn't sort of go evil until until she dies. So the notion of him maybe being an ally at CR5 is kind of cool. Huh. That's interesting. Shadow, we spell it with an A, Elizabeth. But Elizabeth is also very interesting. Cody wanted to just spell it originally the traditional way, or he just said it with an E, and I was like, let's push it to fantasy and do A. But I think Elizabeth is really cool with an I, too. I like that. That's another route you could have gone. I think in my head I was thinking of Eliza, right? So yeah, maybe he's an ally, but I feel like then you don't really need stats for him, if he's just an NPC ally. We could stat him up for sure. Elizabeth, there you go. Yep. Starts out good. Elizabeth is actually a pretty solid name for an ancient god. You should write that down. Elizabeth. Oh, dude. Hey, thanks, Cesar. Wow. I will thank Hit Dice. Go to sleep. That's very late. I'm glad you liked XP. I'm glad you liked Yogg. I'm glad you watched Junior Adventurers League. Holy cow. Good on you, because that show is difficult to watch because of our bad technical difficulties. But hey, man, I'm glad you like it. See you later, Cesar. Thanks for coming and hanging out. It's awesome to meet you, dude. Okay, so Artificer, brilliant young mind. That's not how you spell Artificer. Pushing the boundaries of science and magic. Experiment goes horribly awry. His beloved wife Elizabeth, dies in the process. Goes mad with grief. Constructs gruesome parody of his wife. Yeah, so I could look at the new one. We based the Dr. Hubert off of one by a Reddit user named Kibbles Toasty. Nope, Kibbles Tasty. I always call it Kibbles Toasty when it should be Kibbles Tasty. Let me look it up because it's really solid. It has a lot of meat on it, the class. Yeah, this one is... Artificer is humongous. I don't think there's an actual page count, but I think it's something like 20 pages. Here it is. Check it out. Oh. That's interesting, Shadowrunner. Hubert Mungus. So Shadowrunner says if she's not dead yet, his first creation is something he had to merge with her remains. Huh. So he has sort of a weird abortive creature. Okay, so let me try to get the narrative of this right. So he's experimenting because maybe, huh? That's kind of interesting. So I guess this is my question: is he evil? In what context? I'm trying to envision how players would or how DMs would use this character. That because there's already kind of an arc of, if he starts off as good and she's still alive, right, then if he starts off as good and she's still alive, then something would happen in between 5 and 10 that would turn him evil. That's when she would die, right? And then he makes this gruesome version of her, and he goes evil. And like, what are his goals? What are his objectives? In Yogg, he's obviously just like working for Yogg, because I think Yogg promised him that he would bring his wife back. But Cody makes the point that like that's so far beyond what Hubert can grasp anymore. He's not even really sure he wants that. I do like this idea of like the framework. I think that's smart. I like the idea of like, one thing that's interesting is like, how do you distinguish these different villains from each other in terms of the way that we design them? So like with Desdemonia, she has the charms. That's kind of her big thing. I was trying to figure out how to distinguish Dr. Hubert from the other three villains in this first arc. That Agnemon has the cult, and Desdemonia has the charm effect and the regional effects. I think Dr. Hubert comes packaged with a lot of magic items. They're really more like, gear, but it's, they're almost like spells or potions. Like they replicate different spell-like abilities that they can use. Shield, yeah. Potions and gadgets. So when you kill him, or when you like raid his laboratory, right, then you find all this loot that like Dr. Hubert anyway is like very defined by his equipment. So it seems like a bunch of his items would be of interest or relevant in this particular adventure if you use him. Alan, I think you're on the right track, that he's like a neutral NPC. He's like someone they have to work with, but you get weird vibes from him. Neutral NPC, very into science and development. Not science and development is stupid. Very into science and progress and pushing the limits, right? We talked about this. I'm trying to figure out, like, what is his, like, I think you're right. It's something to do with golems, his focus. Something with golems and chemicals and gadgets. I mean, like, the thing is that he's just like a grab bag. He's like a Rick from Rick and Morty. Like, what is his actual focus of academic discipline? It's all over the place. He's got lots of different irons in the fire. I have not played Apex Legends, Alan, but lots of people have, so I'm sure that is a good reference for them. Golems, chemicals, gadgets. Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense. So the other thing to think here is that, like, if he's got 3 different iterations, right? Then that's 6 stat blocks, because it's him and the monster every time, which I think is fine. Do they both get increasingly more powerful? I think that makes sense. I think what I wanted to do for Eric, for the Abomination, was to play with the idea that Eric stays the same, but the Gargoyle gets more and more powerful every time. So Eric is like a CR5 stat block or whatever. So it's CR5 stat block, and then when he turns into a Gargoyle, it's like a wild shape. It's a separate set of hit points. He has a separate stat block, and then you fight that, and then when that gets defeated, or when he can't maintain, he goes back to being Eric. But then the CR10 version, he's still CR5 Eric, but the Gargoyle is now CR10, right? And CR15 similarly, CR5 Eric, CR15 Gargoyle. That, like, Eric doesn't improve, the Gargoyle does, like, to make it a little bit more interesting mechanically. So here, I don't want to do the same thing, but that's like my first instinct. Yo, what's up, Jose? My first instinct is, hey, aren't you playing Strahd right now, dude? How's your campaign going? My first instinct with Dr. Hubert is that the similar thing would happen, that Hubert would stay the same and the monster would continue to get more powerful. But I don't want to just copy the same structure I'm going to do for Eric. So it seems like they both get more powerful. He gets access to more gear, more equipment, like that kind of thing, right? So let me just make a thing about structure. CR5, Hubert, and prototype. So I like it being a Warforged. It's like the chassis or whatever. And then CR10 is Hubert plus Elizabeth. And then like CR15 is like Hubert plus like Super Elizabeth. Dr. and Mrs. Hilkington. Hubert plus Super Elizabeth. Oh, I like that she's a doctor. Oh, no, that stinks, dude. I'm sorry to hear that. You missed your game. I like that she's also a doctor. That's kind of cool. Because that was one of my concerns with the character, too, is it felt a little bit like... That's cool. He's trying to get rare ingredients or materials, commissions the party, the PCs to retrieve them for him. Delays or failures cause him to make mistakes, or if the party is successful, some third party intervenes. I mean, I think you would even just make the point that like he wants these things, and the party's not like super like clear or super behind what he's about. You know, like I like that idea. So let's make a point that he hires the characters. So here's the thing too with these is that generally you don't want to like say this is how you would use them. Dr. and Mrs. Hubert hires the characters to fetch ingredients. But if Robin Wright died at the end of season 1, and also there's magic, to fetch ingredients and components. Sorry, my spelling is terrible. How do you spell that? Because you can't really like 100% determine how the players are going to use the character, right? So you can give some suggestions. But I think that's a good one for sure. The characters need some item. He sells or lends it to them. I like the idea that his wife is a doctor, that they're a duo. So here's a question. Oh, I don't remember the never-ending story couple. Partners in Science. Just real quick, she blinded me with science. She blinded me with science. How did I not spell science right? There. So yeah, in the original version of the story, in Cody's backstory for Dr. Hubert, he specifies that like there was an unrelated accident and that he wasn't trying to turn his wife into a gruesome creature. That Elizabeth is the product of Hubert's grief, right? But not necessarily Hubert's like ambition, right? Was Nasty Folks in Princess Bride like that? Which folks? Why am I not remembering any of these references? Oh, yeah, they're kind of like that. They're more like witches, right? Like they're less. I guess they're like herbalists. It's kind of like a racial stereotype, really, though, because they're sort of like. It's like Billy Crystal in like a medieval society with Carole King, I think, is his wife, and they're like, oh, they live out in the forest and they cast spells. Yeah, it's like a horrible Jewish stereotype. It's like a weird anti-Semitic thing. I guess Rob Reiner made it. So, like, it can't be that bad. Rob Reiner's Jewish, right? Where are we in this conversation? Gosh, I don't remember that at all, Jose. I should look that back up. Because, boy, Neverending Story was a long time ago for me. So anyway, in Cody's version of the story, she dies, and like he's doing an unrelated experiment that causes like a fire in the lab, right? Like he channels lightning and it burns the lab down, and she dies in the fire. Yeah, God, I remember the Sphinxes. Is this in the world, or is this in IRL in Neverending Story, or is this in Fantasia in Neverending Story? So the point being that she dies in this fire. But that makes Dr. Hubert then about grief and not necessarily about ambition. Like, is it better to shift it and say that they're experimenting and she dies in an experiment? Because then you get this interesting element of, like, if she wanted it, you know, that, like, maybe she has some other discipline to him. And then it's less weird and less... I think it takes away some of the creepy, misogynistic, like... you know, oh, my wife died and I'm going to bring her back stuff from the character, you know? Like, it makes it more like he's grieving. I don't know. I think if you make the wife character sort of willingly do this, and that she's also a scientist and she's trying to push the envelope as much as he is, I don't know if that makes him more evil, less evil. The more evil option is to make him do it to her, that, like, he faces some failure and then does it to his wife. But yeah, I kind of wonder if it's better the other way around, you know? If, like, she wanted this done, essentially. Yeah, you're making all these references, Jose. They're going over my head. I've never seen Stepford Wives. But I like the idea that it comes from her more than it comes from him. That he didn't really agree, quote unquote, that he counseled her against it, that, like, it's too risky, you know, you shouldn't do this, and then she does it, or she, like, convinces him to go ahead with it, it backfires, she dies as a result, and then he, like, can't take it, you know, he can't hack it, and so then he, like, cobbles her to go, like, no, it's fine, look, you're back to normal, ha, right, like, if he's sort of meek and nebbish. And there's something kind of interesting, too, about that then as well, that, like, you meet them as this, like, team, and she's the lead, right? That, like, you meet Elizabeth, this scientist, and then her husband, who, you know, is maybe a surgeon or something like that, you know? And she seems like she's the character. She's the one who's pushing the envelope, and she's the one who is the cutting edge, and that she has kind of, like, her assistant, her lab assistant, essentially, is her husband. And then the next time you meet them, she's dead and, like, a horrible parody of herself, and he's the scientist, and he's completely batty, right? Like, right, yeah, his need for her is the pathetic, creepy part. I agree. Make him feel remorseful for her getting deformed, but she's the one who reconstructed him, a la Frankenstein. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I still think we want to keep the basic conceit that it's the... she's the monster and he's the scientist, but I like the conceit that he feels remorseful, that, like, he should have stopped her. She wanted an immortal construct. Okay, so yeah, let's try to break this apart. So she is a scientist. She's like a magician. She's a scientist, you know, like a magician. So she makes golems. That's her thing. And like, the bitter irony of, like, someone who loves golems and studies the creation of golems dying and turning into a golem, like, makes her arc a lot more interesting, I think, than the other way around. She wants to create the ultimate golem, right? Yeah, Rut-row, indeed. She wants to create the ultimate golem. Her husband is her quote-unquote lab assistant. Like, what's his focus? He feels like a surgeon to me, because that's, like, he stitches people, but he also has all these, like, weird gadgets and inventions. You know, they could both just be vague scientists, but, like, if she's all about golems, like, what is his area of expertise? Like, drugs and chemicals? Because he does do a lot of syringes and stuff. Is she working on a flesh golem? Is she working on an iron golem? You know, what's her thing? Because there's that book. There's the text about the golem construction, right? Golem book 5e. Manual of Golems. Maybe she has them all. She's like collecting them, you know. She's the one with the ethical backbone, maybe. She's always advising him against his strange, forbidden, perverse experiments. So when she dies, he's morally unmoored. That's interesting, but I kind of think it's better if it's the other way around. That, like, he didn't want this for her, right? That it's, like, his denial of her death. That she was trying to push the envelope, and she was trying to do this. It, like, makes her more of a balanced character, I think, than her just, like, him being crazy and her saying, no, don't do it, and then he does it, and she dies, and she pays the price. Like, I wonder if it's more interesting if she wants it, and then she pays the price, and then he's forced to, like, pick up the pieces and makes this weird thing because of his need for her. You know? I mean, I think they both work. Like, that's the difficulty. I like the notion of placing a little bit more narrative weight on Elizabeth, but it is getting away from Hubert somewhat. Gosh. Here's the other thing. It might be getting a little academic, too, because the conceit here is that these are monsters and, like, bad guys you can meet in your campaign. So if we get, like, too deep into the backstory, I wonder if that's not helpful for what we need, you know? I think they both work. I'm more drawn to Elizabeth being more influential, and, like, her love and her study being golems. But I don't know. Let's see. Let's maybe come back to it. I think there's, like, a... Man is extremely rare and sometimes translate uncertainly during the accident. It's damaged and he rebuilds her wrong? That's kind of cool. Yeah, and Alan, you're exactly right. We're writing a Victorian novel right now, which is cool. I like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But, like, how much do we really need to delve into? Especially because the conceit is that... Oh, well, sure, man. So the way that I'm writing the Agnema stuff, I'll give you guys a little taste. Most of you are patrons. And if you're not a patron, you should be a patron. Check out our Patreon. But the way I'm writing Agnema, I'm basically giving you the option. I'm not coming out and stating, this is what happened. This is their backstory. It's like, you could choose this backstory, fallen from heaven. You could choose deceived by greater evil, right? Like, there's one more I'm going to write yet that I haven't written. But it's giving the DM the option to, like, which one of these backgrounds are you most interested in? So then I think we absolutely, yeah, boom, we do have cookies. They're great cookies. It was an egg. Yeah, that's not a cookie. We also have fried eggs. Come get some eggs. But letting the player choose, or letting the DM choose which one is the most interesting option, I think is probably the right way to go. So let's say... So in the first version, they're both alive, right? That, like, mechanically all we have to do is, like, express the two of them as, like, a pair of young artificers, and then they have, like, a golem, like a Warforged style manservant, right? Like a prototype. But they're ostensibly neutral, and they're, like, not really villains at that state. They're just NPCs that you can encounter. Hubert and Elizabeth plus prototype Warforged chassis. And then it's Hubert and Elizabeth, and then Hubert and Super Elizabeth. So let's start talking about, like, some abilities. So the main thing that Hubert has... Oh, I like that thing about the Manual of Golems, though. Let me write that down. Yeah. Manual of Golems. Destroyed in accident. He builds her wrong. Because, like, again, I think that's also really strong if, like, golems aren't his focus, that he has this, like, incomplete book, and he's desperately trying to, like, bring her back in some way, you know? Maybe her, like, focus, again, we're getting back into the backstory, but maybe her focus is on trying to, like, preserve your body or move your soul from your body to a golem's body, you know? So then it's, like, it's very Full Metal Alchemist in that way. And that's, like, what he's trying to do. Like, I'm trying to transfer her essence. And he thinks he does it, but he's, like, not 100% sure. Loss prevention automaton. Yeah, I like that as a conceit. I think he is definitely a prototype, but I also think he's kind of like a shield guardian in a certain sense. So let's see. So you don't want to do a shield guardian because shield guardian CR7, but let's just do abilities. So I think it's like mechanically the doctor, like Hubert. Oh shit. Not fearsome in combat, right? But have many support abilities. Nice, Alan. That's a different kind of loss prevention. Yeah, the wedding ring could work. He also has a locket canonically that Elizabeth has a locket that like he gave her when they were still together. That's in the canon. So that might be a good option too. But wedding ring could work. Some kind of a piece of jewelry between them. So the way the Artificer works right now is they imbue magic items with powers, which is a little boring. Oh shit. They imbue magic items with powers, which is a little boring for a monster, right? But they also just have spells. So I wonder if it's simpler just to say, like, they basically have spell-like abilities, but have them be kind of gadgets. Gadgets, syringes, etc. And then the, like, automaton is a heavy hitter, high AC, etc. This is CR5. And then CR10. So things that he has, again, it's a similar situation where it's going to kind of be the same, like, idea iterated several times. So now it's just Hubert here. This is Hubert as he appears in The Child. So this is like much later, sort. I mean, it depends on what your time scale is. But similarly, not fearsome in combat. All that stuff is still true. Many support abilities. Oh, that's kind of interesting, Jose. She's responsible for the accident. She builds golems, but he builds her right. Only he takes the memory of the accident. I mean, you could do both. Like, he could build her wrong. I mean, I think she's still a monster. Like, you can't lose the fact that she's, like, a gruesome, horrible monster. But yeah, I think he could... Well, the question is, like, what does she remember? Like, if we're thinking of her in terms of, like... the podcast, she's a big hulking creature. She almost is mindless, you know. Good night, Brooke. Thanks for hanging. She could. I mean, the question is just like, what does she? She's a flesh golem, right? A flesh golem has very little intelligence. Again, like, these are cool ideas. I don't want to stray so far away from the actual conceit of the character. But I think something like that is good. Because she does, like, love him and protect him. And there's, like, some open question in the show as to, like, how much of that is, like, programmed. How much of that is you know, her actual personality creeping through. It's good, though. I mean, I think it's interesting. And then Elizabeth is a heavy hitter. So in this one, in the podcast, he like rides around on her shoulders. So some kind of a mechanic where they're one creature essentially that like while Hubert rides her. He's insulated from attacks. Like, all attacks against him have disadvantage or something like that. I mean, you could still kind of keep the same idea that we had for Eric, where Hubert is sort of small and weak and, like, doesn't really get more hit points or anything like that. Like, his gadgets improve, maybe, from iteration to iteration, but he doesn't really get noticeably tougher. But the point is that he just, like, yeah, exactly, he just mounts on top of her and rides her around as a big, horrible golem. Yeah, I like that. Is that a thing, a mounted combatant? I love that you guys can always just spit out the, like, this exists, go look at this. I'm like, oh, cool. I did not know. Yeah, so I will look at that. What kinds of spells does he canonically use on her? So he has Jump. He has Shield of Faith. He has Enlarge, Reduce. He uses Sanctuary at one point, but that's not a very good bad guy. Give him some Chevalier type abilities. A big part of it too, though, that I think is fun, is that he's not very stable on there. If she's knocked prone or jumps or something, he has to make a dex save. That, like, he's not especially well situated. Then that was kind of the joke I kept saying, like, you know you're going to fall off of her, right? Like, you're in trouble. These can all be the same. We should look at the Artificer spell list and see what else there is. Oh, it is a classic line from Gothic Horror, but it's not a great, like, monster ability, I don't feel like. Sanctuary! I mean, I guess he could cast it on himself, you know, that way he can't be attacked. I think he flavored it as, like, a spray bottle in the adventure. It's like a pheromone that he, like, sprays in your face. So then, yeah, a lot of it is, like, what are the different, what would you call it? What are the different, spells you can have and how do you flavor them. I like the idea for some of the magic items that, like, there are syringes. So, reverse sanctuary. They function like potions, but they're hyper, but they deal damage. But are supercharged. So, you know, a syringe of jump lasts longer or jumps higher or something. Gross. Hey, Brent, what's going on? Thanks for making it. You know, I was worried at first because it was just like a couple of us. I'm glad that you guys have showed up to hang out. It makes this a lot better. We're working on Dr. Hubert, Brent. Cure Wounds is... Oh, that's funny. What's a syringe of Cure Wounds? Like, it damages you first. Maybe it's like a syringe of regen, that you take the damage initially. Deals damage initially, and then you slowly regain it back. So they're like potions, but you gotta stab yourself with it first, right? I think that's cool. What are some other things he does? That's kind of it. Like, he's got a hand crossbow, I guess. So much love at all levels. We're at some interesting places with the character actually right now, Brent, that, like, we don't really get touched on too much in the podcast. We're discussing the idea that at CR5, Elizabeth is still alive and is not a monster yet. And it's, like, about the sort of arc of the villains is about seeing their transformation. He rides on his shoulders. Hand crossbow is a dopey little hand crossbow. That's interesting. Yeah, do minor psychic damage at the beginning of the next 5 turns. Like, it persists. Psychic damage, potentially. Okay, and then CR15. So what are some crazy stuff? So there was one ability that Cody did not take that I actually thought was like the coolest possible ability. It's called Overload, and it's for you should have Mechanical Buddy on the Artificer. Oh, that's the shit, Brent. Yes. Fires syringes. How did... Oh, my God. I got to talk to Cody about that. We got to have a conversation, because, like, that's so cool. Oh, Brent coming in with the win. Jesus. Making us all look like idiots. Sorry, that really got me excited. I apologize. Hand crossbow. Shoots syringes. Okay. So all that stuff is still true. Jump, shield of faith, enlarge, reduce, sanctuary. We'll go look at the spells in a little bit. So there's a power called Overload. That's basically just like a burst power. Let me see if I can pull it up. He didn't take it, but I thought it was really cool, and it has a super Frankenstein kind of vibe. The conceit is that the because it's supposed to be like a mechanical companion in this version of the Artificer, in the Kibble's Tasty version, but it like overclocks itself and zaps everybody with electricity, and that felt very Frankenstein to me, right? Like, it's alive, it's alive. So something like that. Let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, the Golem Smith. Yeah, Big Brandon. That's cool. That's some fun flavor. I like that. I think that's another really important thing that we should try to hammer home on at least the last two versions of Dr. Hubert is the insanity. That, like, the more we can make the character feel kind of random and chaotic and, like, ill-prepared, the better. Yeah, exactly. You could absolutely accidentally buff a PC. That's really fun and flavorful. Nice job. That's very in character, and I like it. So where is the... It was called... like Overload. I could have sworn. Maybe they changed it. But there used to be one. Sorry guys, I'm looking for it. Overdrive Protocol. No, that's not it. Anyway, it had like a thing where it could blast out with lightning. And I think that's really cool. Like a burst of lightning. So I would like that if possible. Yeah, they have redesigned this. Interesting. So the version we have is not accurate anymore. That's fine. But I like the idea of having an overload, like an AoE lightning. Yeah, those are in Pathfinder. That's cool. Lightning attack, like it's overclocked. He can see through her eyes. Although he never uses it. Kind of like a familiar. So what are some of the things that, like, at CR15... Oh, we discussed the idea that she gets more arms. So, multiple arms. She's got, like, 4 arms. Or, like, 3 arms, maybe, is interesting. Oh, that's cool. You have 1 eye. 3 arms. Yeah, and that's one thing, too, that, like, they talk about, that, Ooh, we could do this. Random features. So you know how, like, the trolls have this? Where, yeah, I agree. Oh, dude. This is coming up in previously on my recap show, but in my Tomb Annihilation campaign, because decided on chat, actually, someone had a really great idea. They fought a flesh golem They had like one arm that was like a pterodactyl's wing with like the skin all torn, and then the other arm, in place of a left arm, it was 5 little goblin arms, like all just scratching and grabbing, which was like way horrific and scary, and I really liked that. 3 arms, 5 arms, something weird like that. But I like the idea of looking at the troll. So the troll has like a random features thing, where sometimes the troll has 2 heads, or sometimes the troll has 3 arms, or sometimes the troll has whatever. And I think that could be really instructive with Elizabeth too, that like every time you encounter her, there's a chance that she has some weird extra bit or some unusual, and it's all randomized, right? Even the DM doesn't know until like the moment when it happens. Yeah, isn't that gross? That wasn't my idea. That was somebody else came up with that in the chat, and it was like utterly horrendous and very gross, and I loved it. It's exactly the kind of thing you would like, dude. Yucky bullshit. Yeah, here we go. Loathsome limbs. Oh, I see. It's like just a creepy Frankenstein Inspector Gadget. When the troll takes at least 15 slashing damage at one time. Yeah, Shadowrunner's always there. So sometimes, yeah, they can have multiple heads, multiple things. So, like, having a table of random things. Like, she might have a crab claw, like a Chull's claw for one of her arms at some point. Or she might have, you know, like a big, long, like, frog tongue that, like, she specifically is, like, cobbled together from parts, some human, some animal, and some monstrous. So the idea that, like, who knows at any given point. Is my thing glitching? Are you guys seeing a glitch in the Google Doc? Because it's glitching on OBS a little bit, and I'm not sure if you can see it. But yeah, random table. Oh, freakish regeneration is good. Very nice. Is that a thing? Freakish regeneration? Is that like a power I'm not aware of? But definitely regen is a good power for her. Maybe make it 5 and then make it 10 here, right? Flavor. Yeah. I like that. This is getting good. I'm into this stuff. So I'm curious about the CR5 version because I feel like that's a little boring. I feel like there's not a lot to recommend it there, and like you don't really get into the good juice until CR10, you know, because the standard automaton. But I guess you got like 2 artificers and then the automaton running around. Yeah, right. So the troll variants. Okay, that makes sense. So, like, I'm going to look at Kobold Fight Club for a second, because here's one thing I'm concerned about, is that you ostensibly want the encounters, like, to be... Since we have 2 monsters now, right? We have a CR, we have, like, Dr. Hubert and Elizabeth, or we have both of the scientists and then the chassis. You kind of have to ask yourself what level, what are the CRs of these creatures? So, a CR5 monster, just on its own, reset filters... A CR5 monster is worth 1,800 experience. So if you have 3 monsters, they need to be like less than... Yeah, that's possible, Brent. I don't mind that. So here's my question with the darts. If they're this is why the neutral good aligned thing is a little tricky for me, because like I don't foresee them being that crazy or chaotic at CR5. That if they're still kind of supposed to be bugs, like they're kind of still supposed to be somewhat sympathetic at CR5. The idea of them having a random bag full of evil darts that they shoot at you, like, immediately indicates to me that they're crazy and evil, you know, like, which I don't mind doing, but that just changes a little bit of our narrative here. Because you could easily have it be like, rather than have them be good aligned or even neutral at CR5, like, have them be evil ostensibly, but they just work together, like they're both crazed, or they're both working on this thing, this like perfect golem, and then, but they haven't actually gotten into the testing phase yet. They have the automaton, they have like the iron skeleton, but they don't have the whole thing put together. I don't know, but I'm looking at CRs right now. And the difficulty is, let's see, if we have them be 2 of those, that's 600, and then a 3, that's still too much. So, like, if you try to do... You want to have 3 monsters for this first version, right? Yeah, you could get pretty close if you did a CR2. So, the chassis is a CR2. So it's like 1 encounter, right? You encounter them all together. And then this one, they're both CR1. So if you want to keep this here, then he's a CR1, right? Yeah, exactly. Up to CR darts are all non-lethal effects, sleep debuffs. Oh, yeah. I don't mind that. That, like, they get... That's maybe a good way to do it. They're all non-lethal effects, sleep, and debuffs. He doesn't want to hurt you, he just wants to get his parts for his love. So at CR5, she's still alive, I think. But I could see that being a part of it. I like them being deadly things. That it's all sleep and paralysis and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I'm doing the CRs right now. So if we want to keep Hubert at CR1, or relatively low, then if we want Elizabeth to be... So what's a CR10 creature look like? CR10 has 5,900 XP. So if we want to keep him... Sorry, guys, this is probably not very fun. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out later. But the question is, like, does Hubert get more powerful, or does just Elizabeth get more powerful? The thing we talked about before. Let's talk about brainstorming, though. So, again, this is kind of where I'm at with CR5 version. If she's still alive, then I think that really weakens their motivations in the first version of them. Like, I just don't feel the need to, like, iterate on them as like a villain, as like a mechanical idea, you know? We can, but it feels very corner case. It feels like you'd have to design a scenario in which they would end up fighting alongside or potentially against them. Because I'm getting really jazzed about CR10 and CR15. Like, that feels very cool, has a lot of flavor. But I'm concerned that this other version does not have that. I'm not getting as excited about it. Random syringes. But I like the notion of all non-lethal effects. Sleep, paralysis, etc. Okay, let's think of maybe a couple of other big CR15 things, and then we can... Oh, Golomancy is possibly illegal. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think Alan probably was right earlier when saying that, like, you can kind of fudge the amount of, like, how neutral are they? What's the deal, right? You could play with the idea of... Oh, yeah, that's not bad, Brent. But again, if she's alive, if she's, like, not a golem yet, then what's that? Like, why is he using it on her, you know? That's possible, though. Yeah, does it devolve his sanity as the CR increases? I like that. I mean, I think that he gets crazier. So, I mean, I even think there's some kind of an erratic mechanic or something like that, that, like, it's hard to get him to, like, he's essentially has, like, magic resistance or something that, like, you can't cast certain kinds of spells on him because he's just so crazy. Like, his mind is broken and you can't ensorcel it, or you can't get in it, you know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't work. What are some things we could do to make CR15 Elizabeth scarier? Like, I mean, we could increase her size just in general. She could be much more of a, like, a huge what is there's a Toho version of Frankenstein where he's like massive and more of a kaiju. Give her more arms. She's got the random features. She's got the overclock. Yeah, exactly. His wisdom saves or whatever. Because that's true. If his wisdom is so low, his wisdom saves are going to be really difficult, really, really bad. So that might be a way to like counterbalance that or offset how bad his wisdom saves would be. Though at the same time, I kind of like that being a... Oh, that's interesting, Brent. Yeah. Because that could be part of the reason she dies, too, right? That it's like a weird juicing accident, essentially, that he's like beefing her up in combat. But yeah, I'm having a tough time seeing why they're getting into fights at all if they're quote unquote good aligned. I don't know. I want to think about her still being alive. I don't think it's bad. I think it's interesting. It's like a good direction to take the character right now, but I'm worried that it's limiting in terms of like making the monster interesting. I feel like I'm like yeah, really out of frame. But there's something there. I think there's a way to make it work. I'm just like not quite there yet. But that's okay. It's something I can think about. I got 2 weeks before we're back again anyway. AoE lightning attack. So goons are tossing their shop. Yeah, sure. I like that's interesting. A way to like interweave the villains. You know, you could run a campaign with these 4 villains being your primary villains. But that's something also, yeah, to come up with. Like why maybe they're supposed to be sympathetic initially, right? And you're there to help them, and they are being, you know, oh, she's dying. She's dying is interesting. Because I thought about maybe she's really old or something like that she's like near death. But a big thing for Cody, too, is that Dr. Hubert is actually relatively young. He just looks super old because of like all the shit he's been through. And that he's crazy. She's dying is interesting. Does it detract from the tragedy of her dying in the accident, right? I mean, I guess if she dies like right on the cusp of achieving immortality, that's pretty tragic. Yeah, I think that's definitely like a potential background option. Because we don't want to like overdo the backstory, but backstory idea is that she's dying. That's good, Chat Owner. I like that. God, I love the hand crossbow that shoots syringes. I'm so into that. I think we're close. I mean, it's a lot of random ideas that I think we can try to like hammer into one that makes more sense. I think ultimately the notion of them being good and then turning evil is what makes this work, even though I'm having a tough time chewing on it right now. Because it's like Agdamaw is kind of always evil. We come into Agdamaw when they've fallen already, you know, whereas Desdemonia is always evil and always has been evil. So seeing Dr. Hubert go from good to evil, I think, is more interesting as well. Yeah, I like that, Chat Owner. I think you're right. It also has a very Dr. Freeze. Again, Mr. Freeze. He should be Dr. Freeze. Like he's a surgeon, isn't he? He's like a world-renowned doctor, and they call him Mr. Freeze. It's so stupid. But Mr. Freeze was definitely one of the inspirations for this character as well. So, like, anything we can do to kind of hit those notes narratively, I think are good. Yeah. I think that's right. So, this feels like a good stopping place for me. I think we have some really good stuff here for Hubert. I mean, the other thing not to gloss over is that we finished Desdemonia, right? Desdemonia Crime Lord is right here, and there's some good stuff in it. I especially like the regional effects. I think are cool. Yeah, I'm into this. We did good work today, everybody. So, as I mentioned before, a little bit of bad news. We will not be streaming next week, as I am at Emerald City Comic-Con. If any of you are going to be at Emerald City, let me know. I would love to meet up with some XP fans. But the week after that, we will be back, and we'll continue to work on Dr. Hubert. I might talk to Cody. I should have talked to Heather about Desdemonia, but I might reach out to Cody and see if he wants to swing by. So that will be the 24th, I believe, unless... Oh, yeah. We'll have to see, because I might have to move the date as the library where I stream here at the campus library, I think, is closed that weekend. So we may have to move the day to a different day in the week. I'll try to avoid Thursday because I know that's Critical Role, so it might end up being a Monday stream. I'll have to look and see if that's possible. But I'll let everybody know about that. Yes, to be determined for sure, but we're at least off next week, and then from there, we'll see how it goes. Great, thanks for coming out and helping everyone. Anybody got any last questions or ideas they want to throw out there before we call it quits? Because I think we did some good work today. Yeah, there's a lot to play with here with Dr. Hubert. So I think some of my highlights are definitely the random syringes. I think are good. I like the hand crossbow. The hand crossbow that shoots syringes is so good. I think the random features for Elizabeth is going to be cool. The regen smart, the troll stuff. I mean, I think the whole hook behind Elizabeth still being alive and her being kind of like a golem expert is really good. She blinded me with science. A great joke we all really liked and appreciated. Yeah, thanks, Shadowhunter. I will definitely try to stay healthy. I gotta shave the beard and the hair for my cosplay. I think that's happening either Tuesday or Wednesday. So the next time you see me, I will look extremely different. But I've kind of just been letting it grow out and get really scraggly. So I feel like it's time. It's time to banish it, to burn it all down. Okay, great. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate your input. As always, I'm glad we got so many voices in the chat again. I was worried that we were not going to have this much participation. But, our patrons, they always come through for me. Have a good night, everybody, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Adios, dudes.